Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I'm back with another crypto update. Been a little bit busy the last couple days here, and so anyway, we're back at it and looking at the price here, and we're still looking pretty decent right now, I have to say. Again, just a little bit of a recap here. This zone is very important because this is the zone where either the price is going to come back, retest it as resistance, then come back down, or it's the zone where it resets itself, gets a little bit of a pullback, flags out a bit, and then continues to break higher, right? So let me actually change that a little bit to yellow. There we go. So this is our zone here, and I always like to compare it to the zone back in the day here in 2020, right? So when we have this pretty complex correction here, I mean, this was a very complex correction. You can see how many waves it took to get down here, right? So essentially it was one, two, three, four, and five. You could say seven, but I think this wave here was actually part of this whole wave down. So we had one, two, three, four, five, and then we came up into a B wave and then a C wave. If it, there's a different ways you can say it, but essentially it doesn't really matter. The point is how the price reacts following the end here. So this was COVID, right? Remember the COVID dump. This dump was actually a little bit over exuberant, so I wouldn't say it would be so big, but basically, right, let me zoom out here and let's look at both of them kind of in the same screen. So essentially, right, when we were dumping down and we were really, really down in the dumps here, basically saying just wait, right? That I know a lot of people were probably panic selling, not you guys, of course, but I'm sure a lot of people were. And I came out with a video. I said, don't, not financial advice. Nothing I say is. I could be wrong, right? This whole crypto thing could be a disaster, right? But and we could have continued to crash. But for me, I was telling myself, don't sell, don't sell. If I'm gonna sell, which I'm not, but if I was, I would wait for the price to come back. And that's exactly what happened. We came back to this yellow zone here. So this is the point where people can decide, okay, we take this whole wave here. This was our crashing wave right here. And then it was down in the dumps, and then it came back 50%. So now it's hanging out right where all of this support is, right? And now this is going to be the deciding fate, right? Are we going to pull back a little bit, continue higher, or is this going to continue to melt down? I mean, that's really the big question, right? And, I'm still believing that this is some type of fourth wave. And I could be wrong, guys. If this doesn't break out and instead we continue to go down, right, then what is it going to be? Well, there's only really one other option. And if we, basically, if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, remember, wave 2 looks very much in the same degree as wave 4, which is why I'm confident we're going to get that fifth wave. But, just because I'm confident, just because it looks like it, doesn't mean that's what has to happen. Always be aware of that, right? So, let's say, for example, that the price is in distribution. I don't think it is, but let's say it is. And, we had a stock market crash, right? Or because again, it's election year. We got the deep state. We got the central bank. We got the stakes are high for the world, for the world leaders, for the elite, for the financial system, right? So if the stakes are at the most they've ever been, then that means they can try to do certain things. and those certain things can affect markets, right? And I cannot predict that. That's why they call it a black swan. You just don't know. But from a technical, like, at the end of the day, it's show me the chart and I'll tell you the news, right? So for me, the news would appear like should be bullish. But again, if the stock market continues to bleed and there's a lot of liquidity getting dried out, right? And if you see gold prices go down, silver, that type of environment is basically an opportunity environment, right? It's definitely not what you want to see your investment do, but at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, it's an opportunity. So let's say, here we go. So let's say that a lot of people were buying up in here, right? So let's say you're buying in here with the anticipation of it going higher, okay? And I'm not just saying Bitcoin, I'm talking about altcoins, whatever coin, right? But I'm using Bitcoin as an example. And this is worst case scenario. And let's say we, instead of getting that fifth wave, we have a stock market situation, or maybe another FTX, or maybe Tether, right? A lot of people think Tether could collapse at some point. I've been told that for years, and Tether is still moving very strongly. So, I'm not going to hold my breath for that. But let's say something happened, right? And it caused the price to move down. Okay. So if that's the case and you bought here and now we're down here, that's happened to so many people, right? And to me, it's like, yeah, I did take a big bite, but at that moment, it's like, well, you might as well just hold it, right? So for me, if the price doesn't get that fifth wave, then it's going to go and do exactly what we thought it would do back when we were kind of over here, right? So when we had this move to the upside, it was looking like a three-wave-ish move, right? We had this flat in the middle, which extended it. But if, I did have a video out saying there's a possibility that this can come back down into reaccumulation and then break out at another time, right? That didn't happen. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We extended that rally. So now we're challenging the all-time highs here. Okay, so if we move back down, then all this was a retracement. Unless we move down and quickly move back up, then it would be sort of an extended fourth wave, right? But if this moves all the way back down, then it drastically increases the probability that either this is going to be a 1, 2, 1, 2, and we're going to explode to the upside, or it's going to be a 1, 2, 1, 2, and we're going to be in some type of reaccumulation, right? So what is reaccumulation? Well, it's all over the chart. I mean, just look at Bitcoin back in the day, right? You had a rise, a crash, a retrace, a reaccumulation. You go sideways, and then you blast off. And that's usually what happens, right? The last video I did was XRP sucks, right? Basically me talking to a friend, personal friend of mine, not a Facebook or Twitter friend. And basically, he gave me his reasons, and that's fair. And I actually agree with some of his analysis, but to me, there's a little bit more to it. So if you want to go check out that video, you can. But basically comparing it to kind of like Amazon, right? And Amazon also had, and XRP too, right, had similar structures, right, where you have the rise, the crash, the retrace. You come down, then you go sideways, right? Reaccumulation, and then you go, right? Because you built a base here, you extended all the way up, and you built a base here, but if it starts to come back down, then you would need to build basically another sort of steel reinforcement, right? Because that's what it really is. Anytime you look at the price going up or down, it's all about, it's like building a building, right? And you need reinforcement, right? And if the building is just going up, then it just collapses. So it has to build support, come back up, pull back, and it has to build these layers so that I can support the price, right? And that's usually kind of what happens, right? So when you get too extended, like back over here, you end up collapsing. And when you crash, you kill the sentiment. And when you kill the sentiment, everybody runs for the hills, and then it takes a long time for it to recover. But eventually it will, mark my words, it will recover. And when it recovers, that's going to be the best moment of your life. Not really. I mean, that just exaggerated, but the best moment for your investment, I should say. For some people, it could be totally life changing, right? So it's just about having that patience. So essentially, what I'm saying is, whatever happens is going to happen, right? I believe we're going to break out. But if we don't break out and we come down, then we're going into reaccumulation. If that happens, it's going to be actually better when you look back 10 years from now, 5 years from now. Why? Because then you would have, number one, put in a lot more, right? You would have, for number one, it would have taken a lot more time. Number two, you would have accumulated more. And number three, it has a chance of being a 1-2, 1-2. So it's actually, when you look out like maybe a year or 2 years from now, it would actually be way more bullish than if we would have just break out, right? Because if we do break out, we're not going that far. I don't think we're going to go that far, right? So I took it off Loxel, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can probably get up to 100,000, maybe even to 120,000. But after that, that's, to me, is when the bear market starts, right? So then it's going to take, let me just do this so we have kind of like an idea from time. Let's see, I'll take a bars pattern, and I'll take this area over here just to kind of give us a little bit of a time horizon. I don't know if that's going to work totally. So that would bring us out to maybe another 4 years, probably 2027. So we're at 2024. Let's say it ends spring of next year. So 2025, spring 2026, spring 7 and 8. So probably like maybe 3 or 4 years, right? What it might take. It might not, right? It really depends, because we're just going by based off how long it's taken before. So if you take this one, for example, and we're going to jump into the altcoins, don't worry about that. And let me take this, get rid of this one, and put this one right here. We're looking at the bottom, maybe 2026, 2027, depending how long this fifth wave takes, right? Okay, so we'll just put a little zone right here. Like, that's our bottom. Okay, so we'll get rid of that, and that's where our bottom is, and that's where it's going to reset and continue higher. So let me extend that just a little bit there. Okay, so that's kind of what would happen. We would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we would get hopefully a big alt season. We would crash, find a bottom, and then hopefully continue higher, right? I mean, that's the idea. But if that doesn't happen and we come down and we go into reaccumulation, kind of like something like this, where we kind of go sideways, maybe we back basically between 30 and 40K right here. There's a little bit of a kind of a gap here between this base and the bottom of this base here. So somewhere over here, right? And then we kind of back test it. We go sideways a little bit, build some structure, build a base, and then continue higher, right? Well, if we do that, then essentially it's going to take a little bit longer, but I think the wave up is going to be a lot bigger. So instead of 100K, from here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This could be anywhere between 80 to 100K up to 120K. If we come down into reaccumulation, you're going to have a lot more of a base. You're going to have a lot more of a blast off. You're going to have a lot more of a launch pad. And I think this, and also all the people who accumulated here, right? So it's really like you're starting a new wave, especially if this is a 1-2-1-2 and you start that mega third, then I think you can get beyond 120, beyond, I should say, 100 to 120, and probably like somewhere about 150 to 165. So it's going to be bigger, but there's always a trade-off, right? Do you want a smaller wave but shorter time, or do you want longer time and a bigger wave? So it all depends on that, but it's not like we get to choose. It's what is handed to us. But to me, it's like, well, whatever. The time's going to pass regardless. Our time on this earth is very short and it's very limited. And the day goes by whether we like it or not. So every day that goes by is going to happen regardless if I'm in crypto or out of crypto. So I look at it as like, well, I might as well just be in crypto and just wait, right? So eventually it will happen. We just don't know when. Now, I'm not saying any specific asset. I'm talking crypto in general, right? So crypto as a market class, especially, when we have utility, regulations in place, when you have DeFi. We know, I've always talked about the great transition away from the old fiat banking traditional system, the SWIFT system, into a new sort of crypto related blockchain / gold backed system, basically redesigning the financial system. And I think that's why crypto's been held back, right? Crypto has exploded so much over the last 10 years. But if it would have been allowed to run free and the government actually embraced it and the central bank didn't fight it, this thing would be so far beyond our horizon. It's kind of a good thing that they did that, because, be honest, if they weren't fighting it, the prices would be so high, we wouldn't ever have been able to buy the amount we did. So it's kind of like a blessing in disguise. So at the end of the day, we have two options here, right? Just real quick, we'll get to the altcoins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or this is an ABC or a 1-2-1-2, and we have to come back down between 30 and 40K, somewhere in here. Play around a little bit, reset, right? Reset the price, crash everybody out, liquidate the market, reset the oscillator, build a base, right? These are things, it's like a construction job, right? You show up to a construction job, you got to do these things. And that's kind of like what the price is doing, right? It takes a long time. It makes you second guess it because it takes forever. It makes you, right? Time is a weird thing because it can make you think that it never happens because it takes so long. Just look at the XRP price, right? People become complacent that it's going to be 40, 50, 60 cents for the rest of its life. And they say, I'll get it whenever, And one day it shoots up and then you just missed your chance. So it's just best to just stay planted. Just stay planted. Don't worry about it. So, if what I'm really trying to say is, if we have a crash and we're at $60,000 right now. So if we crash below 50, between 30,000 and 40,000, it's going to be devastating for a lot of people. People are going to really feel the pain. But I'm letting you know, if that happens, it's not as bad as you think. It's actually a good thing, right? I'm not cheering for it. I hope that doesn't happen. But what I'm saying is, if it does happen, we need to embrace it, right? For me, it's like a lot of people are going to be hurt because their portfolios are going to be hurt, right? But sometimes in order to build your portfolio, you have to hurt your portfolio. It's like kind of like a wound, right? If you get your leg is bashed open and it's like cut and it's, and then you're sort of like in a desolate area and you do your best to like stitch it up. Well, when you get to the doctors, they're going to have to open it back up and clean it. That way it can properly heal, right? So imagine if the price dumps It's like you're cutting your wound open and it feels painful, but then you clean your wound out and then it's better than ever before, right? So you have to sort of open up the wound in order to fix the damage. Okay, so that's what it really is. It's a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation. We go sideways, right? You can see the base, the breakout. We can come down all the way back down, back test the breakout, build a base on top of this base, and explode. That's my main idea if we don't break out, right? So my main idea is this is going to break out. And the way how it's going to break out is exactly how this broke out here. Kind of similar, right? Where you have this area right in here. So you can see what happened. We got up here, we pulled back, we pulled up again, we pulled back, we went sideways, and then we broke out. So it took a little while, right? So, we could do something like that, or we can kind of pull back a little bit and then start working our way up. So, beware of, if it does start to pull away, right? Let me go back over here. And this is the thing. We're going to know probably by either, maybe I would say at least by September, right? So by September, we're going to, because that's the big thing, is like, what's the answer? Is it reaccumulation or is it expansion, right? That's going to be the big thing. So we're going to know our answer here. So let me put this sort of back up here, that little line there. So if we start to pull back on a flag and we start to pull back, you could say, oh, we came up here, we got rejected, and now we're starting to go down. Yeah, but that's the thing. How does it go down? Does it go down impulsively, or does it kind of flag out in a three wave, right? So you can kind of, like, let's say you had, a way to play this is like, say I had, $1,000 invested whole in crypto, and I'm very, stringent of how much I can lose, right? Or not, I shouldn't say lose, but, if we have to go down in a reaccumulation, it's going to take some time. So if I'm playing it like that and I had no choice but to get out and just wait until we did go down into reaccumulation, what I would do is I would wait for the market to tell me that's what it's going to do. And one of the ways you can do that is, if this starts to come down impulsively, right? But if we start to flag out, and kind of like reset the price bullishly, right? And we're going to get into small time frames too. Then, if it starts to do something like that, right? And that's the thing. We'll get into that once it happens. And I'm still working on doing a member video, so just stay patient. I'll probably even get maybe two. My goal is to get at least 1 to 2 videos out a month. So stay tuned for that, and then I'll go into more details on how I would play it if I'm trading. Like for most people, they hodl, they don't worry about it, right? So if we did have to go into reaccumulation, it would suck to hodl through all that, but it's kind of the safer thing to do. Instead of jumping in, jumping back out, sometimes you might jump out and then you might miss it, and then you're scrambling to get back in, and it's a nightmare, right? Especially if you're very emotionally involved, which you shouldn't be, but at the end of the day, people can't help themselves, right? I mean, it's your money, it's your livelihood. I mean, it's what makes your life, really. As far as, your production value, right? Not your actual life. So, so, if I start to see signs where we come up here and we reject hard, and then we pull back, and 3, and then we come back up again, and then we reject again, and then we start to impulse down, I would then wait for a 3-way pullback, and then I would probably get out, because that's going to be the next move. So that's kind of how I would play it. But it's not clear cut and dry, guys. It's not clear cut. The way I said it makes it sound easy, but it's not easy. It's hard. This is if you want to protect your capital, right? In the event of a crash down to 30, 40K. And the reason you can say, well, why are you spending so much time on the downside move? Because I want people to be prepared if it happens, right? Do I think it's going to happen? No. But again, I wouldn't be so adamant if it wasn't an election year, if it wasn't some type of, there's a lot of shenanigans going on, right? I mean, just look what's been going on. So, there's a lot of things that are kind of concerning if things go south. But if it did go south, then we have a plan, right? We have a strategy. But we'll jump more on that when we get there. Another thing is the way you can play it is if, wait a minute, let's see. Another way we could play it is if we, let's go to the 2-day chart. Okay, perfect. And then what I would do is I'll put a line right there. Okay, and you could be a little bit more conservative if it's too hard to let go. So if we come down, we pull back up, we start to impulse down. If we break this low and then we come up and get rejected here, then that would be a good place to sell, right? Or to let go some of the altcoins or some of whatever you're holding, and then kind of let it play out, because we'll probably come back down between, this high here and this. So that gap right here would probably be filled, and then we would go back up. But you would save yourself this big drop here, and then we would take our money that we sold. And even if it was a loss, who cares, right? Even if, like, let's say you bought here and then you had to sell here, yeah, you took a little bit of a loss, but now you're putting it down here where it's a lot more strong, it has more strength. So then when you gear up for that next move, this is like not going to even be as if it existed, right? So that's kind of how I would do it. So again, if we do come down, don't say I didn't warn. I mean, it could be. But do I think so? No. Why? Because it looks very bullish. This thing looks very bullish right now. Like, very bullish. We had a big crash to the downside. We came all the way up very quickly. And now we're holding very tight in here. So I would imagine that this thing's going to break up a little bit, maybe pull back a little bit. I think it needs a little bit more consolidation. But I think ultimately we're going to rip to the upside. I think we're going to get a big fat pump. It might take a little bit of time, but I think that's probably what's coming. Again, look at the Fed, look at the dollar, look at the financial system, look at the banks, look at our financial system, look at crypto. It's like you're looking at, it's like, imagine, the Roman days, right? You look at the Romans, right? The gladiators, they're fighting in the arena. Okay, imagine I had a time machine and I brought with me a brand new Lamborghini. And they're looking at this Lamborghini and they're like, this is like, and then it's like, okay, now compare that to a freaking horse. Or like if I bring back an 18-wheeler and they seen, a big rig truck, now compare that to your horse and carriage or whatever they used. It's like, there's no comparing it. It's like, they would probably faint. Like they would be so unbelievably shocked. Like, they would probably have a heart attack about, like we're some gods from a different world or something. So that's how I like to look at the traditional financial system versus crypto. I mean, there's just no comparing it, right? So you got to have that belief, that conviction. All right, let's jump into the small time frame here. I've been doing a lot of RC car kind of hobby, kind of getting back into it, trying to, find some things to do with my son. He loves cars, and took him to a little track up the street where they raced the cars. He got a real big kick out of it. So if you guys know anything about cars, or if you have any cool channels you can recommend me, we're kind of like a little bit of a newbie here, so we're just getting back into it. Here's our car right here. It's from Losi. I think it's a Rocky Monster Edition. I don't know if they make those anymore, but we're actually looking at Traxxas. I remember back in the day they had the old E-Max and T-Max. So now the new one is something like this, and it's really, really, really cool. I mean, these things are super fast. Once you play with them, they're super fun. They're super addicting. Let me know what you guys think. What color? I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards this red one here, but you know, you can't go wrong with the green, right? I mean, come on, we're cryptos, so it's got to be. I love green, but man, my son, it's for him, and his favorite color is red. So I'm really thinking about this one. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the small time frame, and let's check out the 4 hour. Okay, so right now it's still a little bit scary, I guess you could say. Why? Because we only have 3 waves. I don't really see a definitive 5-wave move here, number one. Number two, I see I see an impulse to the downside and a 3-way pullback. So that's a little bit concerning. That can mean big time down. But what's important is what happened after that. So instead of it impulsing down, we had another 3-wave move back down, which is good, right? And then we have a 1 and a 2, which is also good. And now we're coming back to this resistance, which is also good. So if we could break out of here, that is going to change drastically, because now if we can do something like that, now I'm looking at this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. And if we can get up here, I don't even care at that point if we come back down in an ABC and we break below that yellow box. Because if we do move back up here, obviously we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then what do we want to see? We want to see a 3-wave correction, right? We want to see a 3-wave correction. If we get something crazy where it starts to impulse to the downside fast, and it kind of breaks this level, you know, it could be a flat, it could be a fake out. But again, if you're like, you know what, I'm not going to risk it. You know, I gotta preserve my capital. I cannot risk it going down. And even if I did have to wait maybe another year, I'm still got to get out. Then at that point, you would want to, again, break these areas, come down, and then come back and retest it as resistance. And that's kind of where you would let go, right? But sometimes, you know, it could be some kind of flat pattern where you have an A, a B, and then you just blast off into a C. So, but if you got rejected here and you started moving down, then you would have obviously capitalized on that. So just kind of giving people a little bit of an option, because again, we're at a major inflection point. Whatever happens in the next probably 15 to 30, even to 45 days is going to really set the tone for crypto, probably for the next 2 years, right? Because again, this is going to either expand or we're going into reaccumulation. My bet is we're going up, and I've listed the reasons why in many other videos, but let's keep looking at the small time frame here. So, you know, I like this 3-way pullback here, and then we kind of built a little base. We shot up. I don't know what was going on here. We had another little 3-way pullback, and then we shot up again, and now it looks like it's flagging out. So it's actually looking quite bullish. If I'm trying to buy right now, I would pull this retracement up, and I would look at maybe 59,607 on a 618 retrace, or even 60,000. So if we can get back to the golden zone here. But even if we didn't, I would actually prefer it didn't. I would actually prefer it holding here because of the way it's flagging out. And then let's get another wave to the upside. And let's say that wave gets up to here. And then I would kind of put my retracement and then maybe look for a re-entry. But let's look at a couple ideas of what it could be. So if this is 3, and let's say this is 3, because this is looking very 3-wave-ish right now, then that means, well, this could come up a little bit higher, right? But obviously, I would be looking for a 3 back down. So W, X, Y. So 3 down, 3 up, 3 back down. And a lot of times during this time, you get a lot of weird corrections because we're at a big crossroads, right? So, if we're flagging out a little bit here, I want to see it obviously reverse. So if we do move down, I'm looking at something like that. So like a WXY, right? So then it would be 3 up, 3 down, and then I would look either for 3 or 5 up. So then this whole thing would be an ABC. Okay, so if then it still puts us at risk, right? Because it's still a 3-wave move, right? So we want to eliminate the risk, and really the only way you can is breaking above all of that. And I think it will, simply because the way the market makers sort of stacked up the resistance. I mean, you got it here, 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 right? There's a lot of points. The more points you have, the more potent, that's a good word, the more potent that liquidity zone is, right? So if this gets broken, that means there's a lot of liquidity up here, right? And sometimes they like to take it above and then take it down. So that would be my only concern. If this thing moves up too fast, like this, and then we have a big dump, then that could be just a liquidity grab before a big move to the downside. Or, in other words, Wyckoff distribution. For example, if I flip it upside down, what do we have? We have kind of like Wyckoff accumulation, where we come down, we have the liquidity grab, and then we shoot to the upside. But in this case, it would be the opposite, right? So that's always a challenge too. And again, that's why charts are hard. Charts are never meant to be easy. A lot of people post charts. I credit anybody who shares a chart, because anytime people can share things that that they see, it's always of value to other people. Now, when that person says exactly what's going to happen, sometimes it's a little bit of a slippery slope, right? And then it makes people not trust the chart versus trust the person who is interpreting the chart. The chart didn't do anything. It was the person interpreting it. So if this does something totally unexpected, it's not to say the chart. It was to say that I didn't read it appropriately, right? Or whoever. So yeah, I want to see this thing either be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, go. Or even reaccumulate a little bit sideways, then go. Or I want to see this 3, 3, and then pull back now. So a 3 would move, then get that 5th wave, then get the ABC, then go. So there's still a lot of work, I would imagine, to be in here. So that's why it's important to very much pay attention in here, because this is really going to decide the fate. So hit subscribe. That way you don't miss anything. And hit that like button too. I really appreciate that. So let's move on here. We'll start with XRP. We still are very bullish, right? We got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have this ABC. Looks like an expanded flat. Perfect. And then we have a 1, 2. And then this looks like 3. I'm hoping this is 4 and we can get 5. So I really, this is a pretty big impulse here. Or at least a big recovery. And that was because of, I think the judge, the settlement came in, right? So it pumped the price up. Now, a lot of people were expecting $10 instantly when the settlement was over. I had a feeling that wasn't going to play out like that. because of the placement of where that lawsuit started or where it ended. For example, if that lawsuit ended as Bitcoin was breaking 75K, whoa, look out. I mean, that would really set things into motion. But it happened like at the most depressing point. Like, I don't know why. It was a horrible place to announce the settlement, basically. Because even the best news in the world cannot structurally change the structure, right? So, like, think about a building, right? No matter how positive the news is around the building, if you don't have the correct structure in that building, it's going to collapse. So, I like this. I don't like that. I don't know what's going on there. I don't like that. I like this 1, 2, 3. I like the ABC. It looks like a 1. It looks like a 2. I'm hoping this is a 1. This is a 2. And we can really start to round out here. Now, if this dumps down, it could be WXYXZ, right? And then go something like that, which is not so bad. And then you'd come down here and you'd backtest this area around 51 cents or so. I could see that happening. So I would kind of wait and see, probably the next couple days and see how this forms here. A lot of people want directional bias, but the thing is like when you're in between, again, you're in between the retracement levels, right? So you got the top of the wave and the bottom of the wave, and you're right in the middle, right? So a lot of times it's just doing that. So it's kind of pointless to try to figure that out unless you have a passion like I do and you want to try to figure it out for trading purposes. But when we zoom out, this is where we get our directional bias, is from the zoomed out approach. And you guys already know my thoughts on XRP, right? I look at that as 5, 5, 3, 5. So 5, 3, 5. So, this is one wave. This is another wave. I'm looking for another wave up, right? So this whole thing is going up. It's very, very, it's kind of simple when you look at it like that. So from here all the way to here, right, is going up. From here all the way here, we're going down. So this is one wave. This is a second wave. I want to see another. I want to see it. Remember, the market moves in 5s and 3s. We only have 2, right? So 1, 2, let's get 3. Now, how that comes about is another story, right? So let's keep moving on here. It's still very bullish. It's bullish because I like the fact that it broke this area right here and it quickly came back in, and then it came down and it back tested this. I mean, that's very strong. So regardless of what happens in here, I think it's ultimately going to break out, provided the environment is good with stocks and Bitcoin. I'm just going to look at, I don't know, let's see. Let's look at Theta. Got to look at Theta. I mean, we're back at $1.20. That's good, right? As long as we're above, what is that number? $1.15, $1.17. I'm a happy camper here, right? So with Theta, much deeper of a correction than I would wanted, but that's just the way it goes, right? I mean, usually it goes beyond your expectations, but then when it crashes, it goes beyond your expectations. Now, I'm still looking at this as a very bullish 1, 2, 1, 2. And this whole thing down here is a triple correction, And we're basically just flagging out in here, back testing, right? These very key areas in here. This whole zone is key, right? So I want to see at least a retracement. I'm expecting this to continue higher. And that's really what it comes down to. I'm expecting it to have some kind of retracement. Because even if it was a reversal, right? Let's say this is a 1, 2, and a 3, 4, and a 5. I would want a three-way pullback before more down, right? Obviously. So what I would look for is I would actually put this right here, and I would look for the price to get back to about $1.50, $1.60, right? So if we can kind of build a base in here, maybe pull back a little bit, maybe go sideways a little bit, and then finally break out, and then get up here, resistance, 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 right? We maybe pull back a little bit more. What do we have? A shoulder, a head, a shoulder. We have an inverse head and shoulders, and that measured move would be approximately, what, 250? Which would be perfect. It would be perfect. Because it would get us back into these retracement levels where we then can challenge it. Which then I would expect it maybe to come back and back test here before continuing higher. So that's kind of what I would imagine here. But as far as the very super small time frames, let's go to the 45-minute chart. Yeah, it looks very kind of corrective, but you know, that's kind of what it does. Like, so just take a mental screenshot of that, right? We dump down. You have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it looks like you got 5. You got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we do have a 5. We technically have some kind of diagonal here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Hopefully we can get a little bit higher, but we have a 5-wave move, so I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of starts to round out, right? So, and then kind of flatten out a little bit and then continue higher. That's my main idea. That's what I'm thinking here. This is what I'm thinking. Something like that. Let me show you this right here. Look at, so take a mental screenshot of that, and then look at, for example, XRP. You can see exactly that same thing happening over here. Look at this. Exactly. Right? We had that big dump. Same thing we had. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? And then we kind of ABC'd a little bit. And we kind of made a roundabout. And then we went sideways. And then we broke out. So, anyways, you get to kind of see it, right? We come down. We kind of play around in here. And then something like that. So, anyways, I'll come back either tomorrow or the next day, and we'll do another update, and we'll look at the price. If we get a big breakout, you know, because again, remember, Thursdays are very volatile, so it should be, I would imagine, you know, if we kind of pull back a little bit and then we get into Thursday, I think we can get a big pump, right? If we do. And that would get us back up into here, and then we would have to reevaluate and see what this wave looks like. But my main idea for Theta and for all of crypto is for this to kind of round out a little bit, go sideways, and then hit the high. That's what really we want to see. Let's look at total 3 if I can find it fast. Or total 2 should do. So here's total 2, basically the entire crypto market, excluding Bitcoin, right? Same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully we get 5, and then we kind of pull back a little bit, have that roundabout shape, go sideways, hit the high. That's really what I want to see, and that would match up perfectly of what happened back in the day. I don't know if I don't know. Oh, I went too far back. Okay. So it would kind of match up with this. Now this one is not like a round and shot. It's more of like a straight shot up. So, but anyways, that'll do it for this video. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.